Believe it or not, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film.
Why will elaborate on that?
No.
And I make films because I have not learned anything else.
Welcome to the Emma of the Impact Film Podcast. I'm Emma of the Impact, here to turn your white slimline telephone red. And my guest today picked the film Shock, directed by Mario Bava. My guest is...
Davis K. Bates.
Now, why did you pick this movie?
Okay, so I picked this movie for pretty dumb reasons.
Love dumb reasons.
Yeah, only dumb reasons. I'm really into the results of Italian copyright law. Sometimes movies from America will be sequels to Italian films in Italy. Sometimes Italian films are distributed as sequels, or in this case, a trilogy in America. I'd seen parts 1 and 3, but I hadn't seen this part.
Do you know Black Sabbath, which was also had a different title, also directed by Mario Bava? Want to guess what sequel to an American film they've tried to pass that off as?
Oh my god, I don't know this one. Was it another anthology film?
I don't think there's a sequel to it. At least not the old one, the remakes. They had posters. God, I love one so much. It is The Last House on the Left 2 for Black Sabbath.
Oh my god.
I know, right?
Like,
That's
as much as I love the unofficial sequels, that's like a big stretch.
That is a big stretch. There's been movies that have been say there's zombies in them and there's no zombies.
What Italian movies love to do is throw in a zombie in the last 10 minutes to justify having zombie in the title.
What's your experience with Italian film, and then more specifically with Mario Bava?
So I feel like I'm like a lot of horror fans, where my experience started with trying to track down Suspiria and watch like an HD version of that. And that just started the train. I think that I had actually probably been exposed to Bava though before anything else, because during the mid-2000s, Black Sabbath played constantly on TV. It was like inescapable, especially during Halloween. That was like the first exposure, but then after finding like Argento through Suspiria, trying to watch all of his movies, I just started trying.
Sometimes it's hard.
Trying my best. A lot of piracy has been committed in the name of watching Italian horror movies.
They're so much easier to get now, though, if you have a region-free DVD player.
I also will say Tubi is probably, that's where I watched this movie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you watched the Tubi version.
I watched it twice. I watched the Tubi version, which was like the most accessible one I could find. And then I ended up watching it on YouTube, and I was trying to count the differences. There were several. I couldn't tell you what they were.
So I quickly watched some of the Tubi one, ran through it. I have the Arrow video release, and I chose the Italian version over the English. And the English, more heavy on the incest.
Oh.
Yeah, oddly enough. And they make Daria Nicolodi more of a bitch. But when I mentioned turning a white phone red, that actually goes to film history in the sense that during Mussolini, I'm very short, so I do this. He banned horror films. And there was mostly romantic comedies, and they were called white telephone films because it was a thing of prestige to have a white telephone. Just to do a little bit of background that folks might already know. His father was a cinematographer. He was a failed sculptor, and so he became a cinematographer. And then Mario was a failed painter and became a cinematographer and really got in with the film industry. But he started off with the first films that started to be popular about 10 years after the Second World War, which were these epics. My introduction to Bava, which I didn't realize at the time, I was a big Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan, still am. I have both robots. You can't see the other one. They would poke fun at these Hercules movies. I started with the Hercules Bava. And a lot of these films, he would be just the cinematographer, and the directors would quit often, so he'd finish filming these movies and not be exactly credited. El Vampiro was another one that they were actually trying to bring horror back. It was not popular, and Bava did finish that movie too. He has a long list of films in his filmography, and then he did Film analysts generally will say that it's either The Girl That Knew Too Much, which is obviously a play on the Hitchcock film. Film analysts usually pretty much agree with The Girl Who Knew Too Much is the first time the pulp fiction kind of novels, which were the first time that Bava really tried to put the crime thriller together with horror in his certain way and really focus more on the kills. And then he perfected it most with film analysts mostly agreeing is the first giallo film, Blood and Black Lace. Have you seen that one?
No, that's been on my list forever. I tried to go back and like catalog which Bava films I'd watched, and I think this is my 7th. And that one's been on my list for a million years. I still haven't seen it.
It's good.
I won't watch the Tubi version, so I don't miss any incest.
The incest is more on the Tubi version.
Oh, I thought you were saying that. Okay, that's why I was confused when you were saying that earlier, because I'm like, the version I watched had a healthy amount of incest in it.
Yeah, that's the one that has it's just a tad more, and the kid says more in the Italian version. I like to watch really awkward European talk shows, like the Johnny Carson kind of stuff. And a lot of people that talk about Bava say he wasn't recognized as successful in his time. They're like, oh, he never had a good enough script because he was so talented with creating these scenes and doing the makeup for a lot of stuff, and such a talented cinematographer that really could put a scene together in such a beautiful way, but he can never really had a great script, and he wouldn't leave Italy. He didn't feel the need to go to America or Mexico to make an English-speaking film as opposed to the dubbing. But Shock, I liked better on the second watch. Did you have an initial feeling on the first watch and feel different on the second? How did you process this film? And do you think that this film is Bava being haunted by his very more well-known style?
I do think so, because my initial reaction to the movie was I didn't think it sucked, but I was like, this is very stripped back for Bava. Like what I'm used to seeing, like in Kill Baby Kill, and especially like my favorite, Planet of the Vampires. I don't know why that's my favorite, but it is.
It's very good.
It's so good. But I was shocked by the style of it, because we didn't really see very many like Bava-isms until the final act of the movie. So I thought that the first like hour, give or take, was pretty scattered upon first viewing. I appreciated it more when I rewatched it. I think I was just like, I don't know. It's hard to put into words. I guess the second time I watched it, I was picking up more on, instead of eye rolling the parts that I considered derivative, I was like, okay, I like the Poe reference. I like the turn of the screw
The
vibes.
cast of Amontolato. Oh, done so many times, but it's usually good.
Because those were my like 2 big takeaways after first viewing, like Poe and Henry James, like turn of the screw. And then I went back and like I was trying to research the book that Shock was based on, and literally the blurb on the cover is, it's like turn of the screw. So I was like, okay, cool, clocked it. But yeah, I definitely appreciated it more on second viewing.
I did as well. It felt paint by numbers. I feel like if I hadn't seen Italian horror ever, I would have liked it more. What is a Bava-ism to you?
So that's another thing where I don't know how to put it into words.
That's okay.
So
paint it for me.
When I think of Bava, I really think about how the camera moves. So I think of lighting and I think of camera movement, because his films flow in a way where it almost makes me dizzy. Like I'm thinking about Five Dolls for an August Moon.
I just watched that. I hadn't seen it.
And the whole time, like that's.
I gotta admit, I didn't guess the ending like I thought I did.
Yeah.
Not that you could. Not that you could. That's the thing.
But because that's one thing, like after like the 1 hour mark, you start to see more of that. Like my favorite shot in the movie, which we'll probably talk about later, it's towards the end before the big basement scene.
When she's coming down the stairs in the nightgown.
That's great, but my favorite is just, it's where, what is his name? Bruno, the new husband.
Bruno's second husband.
Yeah, the second husband. He's putting his little drops in her drink, and it follows him from the kitchen going up the stairs and then swings back around to Marco just standing in the doorway. That's where I was like, okay, I feel like I'm watching like 60s Bava here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of my favorite shots from the earlier part of the film, which is more paint by numbers, which Lamberto Bava was co-director on this, and some people say, oh, Bava was just so sick at the time he really needed his son's help, and other people say, like Daria Nicolodi, who is the star of this film, and she really carries a lot on her shoulders for this one, and she's
Yeah.
great.
My favorite Daria Nicolodi performance, by the way. I feel like I've seen a good amount of her work at this point, and this stood out to me more than anything. Like, she was really great,
Well,
considering
she
the
still was
dub version.
going through it at the time. She's like, I don't know if I can do a movie, because her and Dario had just broken up, and she had lost a lot of weight with the stress of dealing with the breakup, and they haven't even dealt with her not being appropriately credited for Suspiria, and so she's pretty shaken up when she did this movie. But she's a talented actress. I'm not saying that's why, but
Yeah.
it was definitely a factor.
Mistaken, or was she like a later addition to the cast?
I
Like,
don't know, actually.
I think I read somewhere that like they initially filmed scenes with another actress that I might be confusing that with something else.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But I do know that she said that 25% of the film was probably directed by Mario Bava, and that he would just leave after the morning and have his son do the scenes he knew there weren't going to be a worry about. And he was just letting his son get more experienced and not nervous. So she said Bava was fun to be around. He was a party boy, even when he was an older man. And he just made everyone feel relaxed. And Lamberto wasn't bad, but he had more of a nervous energy on the set, but he was new. So that was part of it. So this movie is pretty much, it's one of those films that's about a woman. Is she crazy, or is there something supernatural going on? So a woman moves into her old house with her second husband and her young child. It's Mario, right? No, Carlo, Marco. Her young child.
They don't say his name enough, to be fair. They should have said it like 500 more times.
Well, I don't really care about kids, so
Hey, as far as Italian horror films go, he's probably like a top 5 kid for me, because especially if you're watching dub versions and there's adult women dubbing these little boys, it does get really hard to watch.
One of my favorite shots is like earlier in the film when it's the part where she trips and she sees the hand in the rake. We don't have to really go into detail about that. You should watch the movie. She's having a thing in the lawn, and then it just hard cuts to their outside porch, and you can just see his eyes. I'm like, God, that creeped me out a lot. Her first husband killed himself, supposedly. Killed himself. And that's actually one of the most beautiful shots of the film, is when they're on the beach and he's using that sun flare trick, and they're just backlit by the sun. And the sun flare is coming in when she's having to tell her son, your daddy killed himself. And he's like, what's death, mommy? So yeah, that's another beautifully shot scene. It feels awkward though. A lot of people complain about the child's acting, but they always do. It feels that way.
Yeah.
He's
Again,
fine.
it's like, this is a very passable performance from a child, if not pretty good. And again, maybe that's just like me having watched so many Italian horror movies about a child with a spooky doll.
Oh, that doll. That's another confirmation for me. My first husband is maybe dead in the wall. And so it cuts to the wall, which it showed us the wall too early. I'm just going to say that. But it cuts to the wall, and then she's like nervously trying to open her medications, and it's glass from back then. And she cuts her hand. And then the kid brings out this doll that is a handmade doll and cuts its throat open and looks like felt blood coming out. Confirmation. Don't have children.
Yeah, it's a good advertisement against them. It's like it's a great birth control app, this movie. And again, like most Italian horror films are, I've never seen an Italian horror film where I'm like, what a great kid.
What a great kid.
Gotta go get me one of my own.
Yeah, I got a ragtag team of kids and me. it's not going to work out. It's going to work out like it did for Daria. I knew this. I'm like, why does her name have
No,
to be
I had to
her
look it up
original
too.
name?
It's Dora.
Dora.
Yeah, the thing is because they say every other character's name like constantly. Like they're saying Marco and Bruno like every 3 seconds, and I think they mention her name twice in the movie.
Obviously, with the narrative we explained, is she crazy? Is spooky stuff happening? Is her kid possessed? Or is he just having some psychological problems? And another reason why this film looked so different is Lamberto Bava wanted this to be more like Stephen King-y, so more modern horror. Once I really slowed down and watched it like the third time, I really noticed Bava's style, and even there's so many great frames that you could, but you have to pay attention to it. And this is one of the least complicated of Italian horror films.
Oh yeah, it's extremely cut and dry in a way that I wasn't expecting.
I'm going to give away the ending a little bit, but it's still nothing like experiencing the movie. I think people need to set the bar higher on dating. I always think that. It's okay, find yourself someone that will bury your first husband in the wall, but also he has to be smart enough not to bring you back to the house when you've forgotten. That might kick up a memory. I know he was waiting 7 years until the death. Not a good idea. It didn't end well.
Yeah, it is one thing where I'm like, I do have to question his planning process. He was doing his best. He stood by his woman. I think he's ultimately a great guy to bring home to mom if you ignore a lot of his actions in the film.
Yeah,
but
she's going away.
Like, your
and
plan
obviously
is
she's
really
getting crazier
contingent on you then never leaving the home ever again.
I know.
So no, buddy. Going back to the is she or isn't she, is it supernatural, is it not thing, that's another thing that I was surprised that the movie seemingly confirmed like 35-ish minutes in.
Maybe not even. I was going to
Maybe
ask you
not
that question. It's
even,
not balanced. We know it's supernatural.
because because I feel like if it wasn't already extremely clear, we have the airplane scene, which I don't know how spoiler we were getting.
I'm going to get very spoiler on this one. I usually hate ghost ads, like Egon in one of the new Ghostbusters movie, playing on our sentimentality, or Skeet Ulrich in the Scream franchise, or Bill Cosby. I'm not a ghost dad fan. I'm just not. But you know what? Carlo, the first husband in this, hot.
He is. He really is. It is a shame that he was wearing the Tate Langdon wig from Apocalypse, but other than that, he was very pretty. Almost too
I thought he
pretty.
was a woman with a mustache at first.
So I did actually. I love that we're on the same wavelength here because I did Google if it just happened
I
to be a
googled
woman
him
in
too.
drag.
Like, who do you? I know he was just a team member. I'm like, but like maybe he was a model, and I could find pictures.
I know. And then I watched, what was it? I watched something recently that I think colored that idea for me. Have you seen the William Castle movie Homicidal? It's like a psycho dude.
No, now I have to. Is there a guy that looks like that on it?
There's a character that's in drag whose voice is dubbed throughout the movie. And I think that planted a seed where I'm like, are you just like a really handsome woman?
Yeah, gender. I don't definitely am not one that cares. Luckily, more options.
No,
I'm like,
it's hey,
Carlo.
you kick the heroin and being dead thing, and I'll marry you. I don't care.
Yeah, I would. She seemed like she was having a good time. There's a very erotic scene, and we see the shadow of hands. It looks fakey, but it's supposed to, like the children's thing. And I did it crudely, but she's actually doing it sexy. I can't do it. I keep my tongue in my mouth. But yeah, she's having a good time. I'm like, maybe ghost sex isn't so bad. And I tell nobody. If I'm crazy, they're just going to med me up. So I'm just a zombie. So I'm just going to keep this to myself.
That is a scene, though, where I do want to see the behind the scenes of it, because I feel like the highlight of this movie is like how simple but effective the scares and the effects are and stuff. Like something floats, it's because someone is holding the other end on screen. But specifically, just her hair, I want to know exactly what they did, because I'm like, is it shot upside down, but then it doesn't look like it's falling back? I couldn't tell exactly how they did it, and I do want to know.
That is one of the best scenes. It's during the erotic scene where Her hair is just flowing. So you had to see it to know. We can't describe it to you. You have to watch
Yeah.
it. And we did mention incest earlier, so I feel like we should.
Gotta
Shall I
circle
do
back
it?
to the incest.
I always have to.
Emma of the incest has to talk about it.
All the time.
That was your other first TikTok account. There's Golden Girl.
Oh. Don't tell people about my Golden Girls. Anyway, no, it's not anywhere to be seen. And if the internet is forever and it comes back, if Golden Girls skits is the worst thing that comes out, that's fine. I'm not a dangerous person. Oh God, that sounded creepy. Now it sounds like I am. But anyway, the incest. So it's like the dad's possessing the kid, but it really starts with Bruno, the second husband, and Daria. I'm just going to call her Daria. Okay. I think everyone's going to accept that. Or I'm going to say, mix it up. Are having sex on the couch and with that creepy hand. Another thing about watching this movie is there's so many creepy pieces of art. That one they really hone in on with the weird fingers, and they show the Bruno's butt because I was looking through the hole of the hand. I'm like, that's pretty cool. All right. But the kid is like, pigs. And then in the Tubi version, he humps his mom a lot more in the yard than in the Italian version. In the Italian
that is
version,
a scene that I did not watch twice. I rewatched the movie and fast forwarded right through that little park scene.
yeah, if you anyone that watches the Italian version, it is shown, but it's uncomfortable. He's just straddling her, and it just lingers for longer, which I think is more effective than. I'm not going to describe. It's everyone's clothes. It's just an awkward mimic. And that's another reason why I never had kids, because it'd be like, if I mention this, is this going to be like some psychosexual thing that's going to be a problem later? Is this going to, maybe I'll just wait to ignore it and we hope it doesn't happen again. And then
You always think
your
it
underwear.
won't happen to you. Yeah.
If I find him a psychiatrist, is that worse? What do I do? I think that's how kids are actually really effective in horror movies. And I feel like she started to ignore the kid a little bit, but I think that's more about the writing than it is about her.
Yeah,
because you can't just explain things to kids about adult or scary things that are going on, and you can't so you just have to protect them. I've only seen it done once, which I'm sure it's been done many times. Deadly Games is the title. Okay. French horror film that's about Santa, where this rich kid is like this little Rambo, and he's defending himself against Santa Claus, but he has his elderly grandfather there, and who he can't really explain what's going on, so he has to care for him. I really think it's a good way to put stress on characters without being too obvious in the writing. It's always the drawing.
Yeah. I am interested to know now that the park scene was scaled back in the Italian version, because it was like
it was shot. It was there. In the Italian version, is better. We don't see much of it.
Yeah, and also it's just I understand from the character's perspective why she underreacted to it. But I was just wishing that afterwards we had just gotten a shot of her away from the kid where she's just like, what the fuck? And I need to see you be grossed out by this, please. I can just infer that she probably was.
I think she ignored it completely, because then she was surprised when she found her underwear cut up in his drawer. Not only did he take mom's underwear, but it's cut up in his drawer. Like, never have children.
Never.
How do you deal with that? I don't know. I don't know.
I would have to get rid of it. It's like, it's just in the olden days.
Get rid of
you
it.
Send them across the country to an aunt and uncle that lives in California, and you're just like, okay, you guys try now. That's the only thing that I can think of. It's probably good that neither of us have a kid.
No, God, no. They would.
Neither one of us has suggested like a child psychologist. We're just like,
what do we do?
My hands are tied. I don't know.
I know. That's the best thing I've ever done as a mother, is not to become one. So it's true. The more Bava you watch, the more you realize how much it travels over in other films where you see certain scenes and you're like, oh, that's like in that. This is a movie. Have you seen House by the Cemetery, Fulci's film?
Yes. And I think that's contains my least favorite child.
Oh, Bob. Yeah. Bob is infamously hated. That child is there's memes about Bob. Of course, when I first watched this film, I did think, I could be watching House by the Cemetery because they do the basement thing and they have the monster, and that's a little bit creepier. That movie came afterwards. I don't think it's necessarily inspired by Bava. I think it's part of the whole zeitgeist. There's so many spooky basements in horror films. Some people bring up the house as its own entity in this film. I don't really feel that. I just feel like it's the people that are fucked up. The house is fine besides being ugly.
Yeah, no, I feel like the house stands out if you've watched other Bava films just because of how scaled back it is. Like, it looks like a normal dusty house.
They found props around. They're like, that goes in a house.
Yeah, I think that, like, I'm not sold on the house being its own entity,
No, me neither.
specifically because of the airplane scene. Because it's shown in this film that the spirit, the entity of the ex-husband, is basically an omnipotent god. He can do whatever he wants through ghost voodoo.
Yeah,
so,
but he had to do it through the child. I think it was just that, again, writing. Bava didn't always have the best scripts or write the best scripts, but
no.
on his better films, like they're so beautiful and they're fun. Mario Bava is not only credited with being the first film director to make a giallo, but also slasher inspired. A lot of people would say Bob Clark's Black Christmas is the first slasher. That's most people, but it's heavily inspired by Bay of Blood. Have you seen that one?
That's one that I need to rewatch. I would say if I had to rank Bava at this point, that would probably be on the bottom for me.
It is a lot of kills without much. There's a creepy old lady, but she dies in the beginning. I love creepy old ladies. They're my favorite.
They're my favorite.
I know! I love hacksploitation so much.
So much. And I just love a good neighbor as well.
Oh, yeah. Ruth Gordon and Rosemary's Baby. Love it.
And an underrated one for me is the old woman who just shows up and stares at the house in Amityville, It's About Time.
I haven't seen that one. That's one series that I know gets a lot funner as you go on, and I haven't explored that yet. I've been saving it.
Yeah,
it's true. I've been saving it.
And now I haven't seen all of them like some psychopaths.
But you have seen all of the Children of the Corn.
I have seen all Children of the Corns multiple times, and I'll stand by that. But Amityville is just like almost too big of a hurdle for me, especially with the unofficial sequels.
There's so many. It's gonna sell if you put that. There's no copyright to Amityville. That one's a big job. I have not seen all the Children of the Corns yet. I will eventually, but my favorite, Urban Harvest, like.
By far. Like, you don't need to watch the rest if you've seen Urban Harvest.
Actually, you can skip the first one. You can just go right to Urban. It's fine.
You can just watch Urban Harvest, yeah. Just a brilliant piece of filmmaking. The next movie had Naomi Watts and Karen Black, and it still didn't top Urban Harvest.
I love them both, but wow, Karen, if by actor, I'd want to go through like a catalog, which would be a big job with Karen Black, even before Nashville. Oof, but I want to do it. So thank you so much for coming on my podcast today, and I love it when people pick a horror movie. Where can we find you, or do you have any projects you'd like to promote?
So you can mostly find me on TikTok. That's like my primary platform. I'm at literally Kathy Bates. I'm Davis K. Bates pretty much everywhere else. Blue Sky, Twitter, YouTube. I'm working on some like more long form stuff, more skits. So if you're into like parody humor, scary movie as horror movie humor, definitely check me out on TikTok. That's mostly my vibe.
Yeah, I was wondering if you had any updates about the whereabouts of Sarah Paulson.
Sarah Paulson was last seen escaping the Royal Ontario Museum on foot. She is still at large. She's no longer considered dangerous. We were just looking to locate her so her friends and family have some assurance.
Thank you for the update, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.